What were we talking about? I don't even remember.
We were talking about
this is going to
elevated,
be a B-side at this point.
elevated safety.
Elevated safety. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the ProfitDig Construction Show. My name is Chris Work. I'm here with two of my favorite partners, Jeff Givens and Jeff Spencer. No offense to producer Jerry. He's just not at the table. So, thanks for joining us. Guys, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
It's good life.
Yeah. Enjoying this weather here in Middle Tennessee this time of year. I heard next week, hey, if you don't like it now, you're really not going to like it next week. Yeah, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
So,
I just got a new HVAC unit though.
new HVAC unit.
Yes. Man, I was burning through propane left and right with the old downstairs unit. And
Oh, you have the outside tank that you had to have filled.
yeah.
Do you still have that?
We still have the tank because we've got an upstairs unit and downstairs unit. But the downstairs unit was really inefficient. And I did a lot of testing last year because we were filling up every month and a half.
Ooh, that's
a
expensive.
350 gallon tank.
Yeah. I don't even
And,
know what that costs. A lot.
So we were spending, 500-ish every month and a half.
Yeah.
I said, man, this isn't sustainable. And like everybody I talked to, I talked to the propane company. They came out and ran some tests. They did the squeeze test, whatever you call it, squirt test. Couldn't find any leaks. We tested the water heater, make sure it wasn't like pulling extra gas. We tested the fireplace. Everything was tested.
It was just an old, inefficient unit.
Yeah, and even the HVAC company, they tested it 2-3 times. Very reputable company.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, all the parts are working as intended. And they tested like the last time they came out, man, they spent 3 hours after testing like every little piece they could. And they're like, we cannot figure out why you'd be burning through that much.
Yeah. But the unit worked good?
Well,
Aside from...
now that we've got the new one, so we switched to a heat exchanger. Electrical based rather than propane based. The upstairs is still on propane, but the downstairs, the old one didn't work as good as we thought it was. The new heat feels so much more robust. Like, I think it was just the inefficient unit, honestly, for whatever reason. But honestly, with as much as we were spending, I was like, man, I'm just bleeding me dry. I need to switch it out.
You're going to buy that new unit in 6 months at that rate.
Yeah. So, but, I did some tests where it was like, I would tell the wife, we had some like electrical heaters, and I was like, we were like turning that thing off because it was costing so much. So we just run electrical heaters downstairs. But I went through like for a month, 2 months, had my spreadsheet out every day. I was going to check, and I would do like tests where I was like, we're only going to use the fireplace today. We're going to use electrical heaters everywhere in the house. And I was checking percentages, and when that electrical heater was on, we were going through 1 to 4% of that tank a day, depending on the weather. Wow. But when it was off, it was less than 1%. Even if we ran everything else. And so, it was probably a little bit of a tangent we didn't have to get on to, but I have a new HVAC unit and it's working great.
That's what I'm sure that's what every average homeowner does. You have
Yeah.
to sit around with their spreadsheet documenting their gas usage from home.
It's a Google sheet.
Is it really? Well, do you want to share the address where everyone can go download this?
We can. I could share it with you. We could confirm this.
We might put it on our blog at a later date. We'll let you know.
No, I'm very happy. It just feels like, and I hadn't got my first electric bill, but I suspect it's not going to be $500. I'm hoping it's not going to be $500.
Yeah, I've always been told the gas is cheaper than electric, but I'm not sure I believe it because in the summertime, the AC is cranking. And it is a fraction of the cost, and I have gas heat.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. Who knows? But speaking of gas heat, which has no relation to the topic that we were going to discuss. In fact, we got so far off topic, I'm not even sure what we were talking about. Yeah. But Jeff Spencer, you remember? We were talking about something that was pretty good.
We were going to talk about some safety issues,
Safety. Mm-hmm. All right.
Well, maybe since we're talking about HVAC, we can talk about HVAC safety.
Yeah.
About
like carpal tunnel syndrome from maintaining that spreadsheet.
Yeah,
from the
your
gas
hand
usage.
starts cramping, working on. No,
I'm kidding. No, what were we talking about? I don't even
we
remember.
were talking about
this is going to be a
elevated-
B-side at this point.
elevated safety.
Safety, yeah.
Elevated safety.
So yeah, if you're in a
So
situation,
you're not talking about increasing your safety measures here.
Nah, I mean
Okay.
based on your altitude
Right.
from the ground at that point. If you're so many feet in the air, how do you protect yourself? And OSHA actually has a lot of standards around how you can protect either yourself or your team. And a lot of times OSHA requirements are a bit of a headache, but the reality is, man, it saved a lot of lives and saved a lot of limbs.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And
Absolutely.
it's tough a lot of times. It's better now because everybody knows about it and everybody expects it. But years ago when OSHA was first come into play and it was getting started and writing fines left and right, it was hard to be competitive on a bid to handle all the safety measures that were
Yeah.
required.
It set back so much time and the PPE costs, right?
And so it was really tough to pick up bids, but nowadays, it's a industry standard, for the most part. And the majority of your larger contractors have safety management programs in place. And so you've got to know if you're working with this specific contractor, like, hey, they're going to require us to be, do so much, as far as safety regulations. Most of those contractors generally try to take it a step or two above what OSHA requires. Now, the difference is you may get written up on a project by the contractor, but there's no fine involved.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to correct it and have to give a written plan of like what you're doing to correct it.
It could cost you down the road with that contractor
could.
if you don't take
If
action.
yes, because if you're not complying with their safety regulations, they're not going to use
They're
you.
not going to hire you.
Right.
But in other situations, if you've got one or two employees that constantly are getting written up, it's not going to take 2 or 3 strikes and you're out. You got to get those people off the project.
Mm-hmm.
But we have, like the company I work for, we have a safety sub. We use a sub, to look at our safety plans and write our MSDS sheets and stuff for us, just so that we can comply with everybody's regulations. Now, as far as elevated, we have part of our company, does sprinkler installs, fire safety sprinklers. Now, they're elevated a lot. I don't know a whole lot about it because I work on the underground and grading portion of it, but I do know that they have to have vest. When I say vest, I mean harnesses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're in a lift of some sort, they have to be tied off. They got to have a cable or something, a yo-yo,
Right.
hooked to the banister on the basket and also attached to their safety harness.
Not a large trampoline below, where that way if you fall, but wait a minute, this is kind of fun. And then everyone, I guess that cuts into productivity when everyone starts having a good time on the trampoline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is the people that have had incidents like that have caused them a lot of harm. I mean, sometimes death, but they don't have anything to say. But the people who had been in bad
The close
situations,
calls.
Yeah.
they all say the same thing. They're like, man, you know what? I wish I wouldn't have treated it as such a joke.
Yeah.
My personal safety and the inconvenience to not be able to get my job done as easily and in the amount of time I would like. I cut corners and I did something that now, here I am as an amputee, or maybe I'm in a burn ward unit, like some of those burn ward videos are terrible.
You watched? Oh, is this like a safety video you have to watch?
Well, I mean,
you're not just sitting around watching burn videos.
It's a hobby of mine, actually. No. Well, one of the common safety regulations is NFPA 70E, and there's and I forget what version they're on now, but it's common for fire safety to take the NFPA 70E, and it defines how to handle fire situations. One of the things they teach you in that course is, I think everyone I've ever attended, there was at least one video of a burn victim because they want you to see.
They want you to see it, yeah.
What
The outcome is.
The
yeah.
outcome is, and I work in the electrical field, so usually it's some type of electrical burn, some type of partial discharge that's turned into an actual discharge or something exploded.
Like tobacco packaging in Europe, it's
Yeah. May cause death. But even if you're a smaller contractor, as you're working on these bigger jobs and you see some of the safety practices, have an open mind from these bigger general GCs that are managing the safety on that site. Have an open mind about it and really think about, if you're a small contractor and you've only got one or two people, what happens if one of them are gravely injured, like on the job site?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they were being careless, And so that mentality of safety, it can't just be you. It needs to be from the top down of your company, whether you're a big company or a small company. You need to be an advocate for safety because the cost of a mistake is far greater than the cost of building that properly into your.
And I would say, one of the things too, like if you're working on a site that's got a structure going up, make sure your guys are educated on lockout, tagout procedures.
Oh yeah.
I had a good friend of mine. He was he worked for an elevator contractor. And they were actually working on an existing building that had been up for several years, but they had an issue with the elevator. He and one of his workers were down in the elevator shaft at the bottom. They had it locked out and tagged out, and someone was needing to get down. They did not want to use the stairs. So they just ripped the tag off, and I think it had a zip tie, something on the lockout, cut the zip tie, turned the power on. They had the hydraulic lines unhooked, and when they activated the elevator, it fell and killed them both.
Wow. That is crazy.
And it's crazy what people will do, right? Like to circumvent measures. So you have to really put in foolproof security.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's in all the lockout, tag out procedures I've followed, there's one key administrator of that lockbox, and they have the key. Right. Everyone else attaches their keys to, I forget what you call them, but they're like expansion key holders. You put it on the loop and it locks.
And in most of your industrial places, even after they're complete and they're in service, they have the same kind of procedure, for maintenance people. But, when you got an existing building this right here was like, I can't remember, I think like doctor's offices or like, just office building. So they didn't really have a lockout, tagout procedure. And so, but they had to shut the shaft down to work on the elevator.
The contractor implemented their procedure, and it wasn't good enough for someone, a tenant of the building.
Yeah.
Right.
Sheesh.
So
at least for our company, anytime we're working on a customer job site, obviously they have their own procedures, but we have our own safety walk on every job site. Yeah. And it's everyone's responsibility to contribute to that safety walk, to look for threats that maybe that the customer has not identified. Yeah. Now we see what they propose to us, but even something like a lockout tagout procedure for electrical, we get their procedure and we follow their procedure, but we require them to provide us with single line diagrams so that we can see, is there any potential for backfeed? Like we've locked it off from the top down, but from some other subunit somewhere, can it feed back into the unit we're working on? So we check their schematics. We verify that it's not going to bite us, right? And then we also install grounding cables on the equipment, depending on the voltage. Right. So like the grounding cables are like the last measure. Mm-hmm. They're like, if something were to get through all of these lockout, tagout points that we have, these grounding cables will kill it. And but that's last line of defense. Yeah. But we do that as well.
Well, all right, fellas. Well, all good stuff. Great. What are you saying, Producer Jerry? You trying to send me a signal?
No, I think he flipped you off, to be honest with you.
Keep rolling. It's going. Anything a little different. Y'all talk all you want.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
Okay. Well, I feel like I need a break, though.
Okay.
Before we go to the next topic. Yeah. Are you guys have anything else to contribute? You are the experts here. I am not the expert when it comes to safety measures on the job site.
Yeah,
I have a desk job. So it's like as long as the wheels are sturdy beneath my desk chair, and
Well,
I guess
I think don't
You have
consider it a
something
burden or a burden.
a burden. No, yeah.
Consider it, as a value add to
Exactly.
when you're presenting your bid to GC. If you're a smaller contractor, saying like,
Yep.
"Hey, yeah, I did allocate costs in here for, PPE."
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I
it's
mean,
like making sure we're doing a safety walk. I put time in here on my job to make sure my guys are protected. I think
Absolutely.
that shows a level of
I
professionalism
think that's too.
that might
That's
give
too.
you an edge as well.
Yep. And it's
so-
a lot less expensive than wrecking someone's life due to amputation or death or, or not to mention the fines and costs associated with it. GCs aren't out there just spending money because they want to spend money. I mean, it's, if you bring in a safety sub like you do, I mean, that pays dividends. So it's protection. So, yeah. Well, all right, guys, we'll wrap it up here. Listen, great conversation.
Yeah.
Good to see everyone. And check us out at ProfitDig.com as you're planning for 2024 and looking for a good job bidding and costing solution. We hope to see you there.
See you
Later.
guys.
See you.